Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, the tools that we create. Our thoughts are prayers, that spirit resonates with. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of mindfulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
We can also dance to the music.
Good morning. Welcome to the center. We're going to have a great day.
I'm Sharara. Hi, I'm Lana, and this is Liz. It's me. Welcome to the center.
Morning, good morning. We're so glad to be here. This cheery, wonderful place. Thank you, thank you.
Good morning, beloveds. This weekend, we had the Ministry of Prayer Retreat, and we went out into nature, and we journaled what we observed. And it's amazing what we observe is us. So I wrote a little poem, and then I'll take you into the silence, because this energy, God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, is in and through every one of us. And it's very important that we get quiet, even doing dishes, and connect with the One. Although this day is brand new, it speaks to all of us. Hey you, in gratitude with the one mind, I turn and look what I find. As we notice nature, birds, trees, anything that is beautiful is true, that it is expressing itself as you. It can be a flower growing with all its power. Lucky us, lucky us, lucky us. That we take time to admire the divine. And there is a Kabbalah saying, with each blade of grass, there is an angel next to it saying, grow, grow. Now, if you'll close your eyes and just go to that place of nature wherever you want. Could be in your backyard, park, this beautiful space right out front here. And just recognize that heart beating, that everything inside breathing. I'll mind the time. And now you can open your eyes, feel your toes, observe your breath. All is well. Namaste.
In the stillness of this moment, there is love. face of God. You are my family, Yeshua. You are the face of God.
And if you would, close or lower your eyes. And as I declare the truth this morning, just allow my words to be your words. I know that there is one power, one presence, one divine love that cannot help but be expressed in and through everything, everywhere. And so I know that as God is expressing its magnificence, its love, its peace, its joy, and its harmony in and through all, I know I am one with the one. And I know that as this is true for me, it is true for each person who can hear my voice. Each person in their own unique way express the divine. And so I claim for each of us that in this new season, this spring season, each of us are empowered to plant new seeds. New seeds that we tend and love and nurture and watch those sprouts just come up and feel the growth of our innermost being, allowing us to live more fully the life of our dreams. I know that each of us plant those seeds in that fertile soil of our mind, and we are supported, guided, and directed to do exactly what needs to be done to tend to that. And be it outstanding relationships, vibrant health, financial abundance, a deeper love and peace within ourselves. I know each of those seeds grow into the magnificent flowers of truth. And I just acclaim that one of those seeds may just come this morning, and I make welcome, whether it be from the music that uplifts me or the message that touches my heart. I know it is all for my greater yet to be, and I am so grateful for it. I'm grateful for this service. I'm grateful for this center. I'm grateful for the face of God that shows up as each congregant, as each volunteer, as each professional that brings the best of themselves to this center. And so for all this good, I am so grateful. I release my word into that perfect action of the law, knowing it is done. I let it be. And join me in saying, and so it is.
Something wonderful. It's happening to me right now. What about you? Yeah?
Ooh, yeah. All right. Something wonderful is happening to me right now. Oh, something wonderful is happening to me right now. I accept things the way they are. I accept things the way they are not. Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
my gosh, no. Oh my gosh, if you were not here on Friday night, you missed the time of the month. It was Patty and friends, and oh, we had so much fun. It was awesome. It was great. Patty and the Beefcakes, was that what the name? OMG, wow, I didn't realize. Sorry. Well, while you're standing, if it's comfortable for you, to please put your hand over your heart and say with me, God bless America and the rest of the world. If you would greet a neighbor with a hug or a handshake, just let them know you're happy to see them. Thank
That's all. That's the only thing. I won't take pictures of you. I'm going to yes, please check in. If you're on Facebook, could you do a little check-in and say, hey, we're at Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living? That'd be really cool. I love seeing that go on the feed. It's very cool to see that. So I just want to tell you, I know I say this a lot and you're like over it. But well, I got to tell you, I got an email, I'm going to say it's a little over a month ago, from Gwendy, and it was just out of the blue. I really don't know how you found it. You must have been looking at spiritual centers, right? And she wrote this incredible, lovely email to me. And she was, I think you like my singing, and I was like, wow, this chick is. I quickly looked you up, and I go, wow, she is like freaking incredible, and I mean that. She's one of the best singer-songwriters I've ever heard, and so to have her write me and to like me blew my mind. So if you have a chance after this, please look at her CDs, buy them, look her up, sing her songs. They're going to lift you up. They're incredible. Please welcome Gwendy Joyson. And she's the musical director of CSL in Albuquerque. That's why she was writing me. She is the music director at the Center for Spiritual Living in Albuquerque. Thank you so much for being here, Gwendy. And these are two originals. Two incredible originals. But I'm not going to screw up. I won't.
I'm so glad to be here. I really appreciate it, and I was not kidding. When I listened to Patty's stuff, I was like, oh, yes, kindred. If you would just get comfortable around yourself.
It's already here. I have all I need. No circumstance will limit me, 'cause I was born free, 'cause I am true. Truth is my identity, stardust eternal, God expressing. I am truth. I am one with my divinity, child of the earth, God expressing. Into the light I can clearly see. I bow to the teacher inside of me. Listen to thee, 'cause I am true. Truth is my identity, stardust eternal, God expressing. I am true. I am one with my divinity, child of the earth, God expressing. I am true. Truth is my identity, stardust eternal, God expressing. I am true. I am one with my divinity, child of the earth, God expressing. Child of the earth, God expressing.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so do you know why God put feathers on a duck's butt? To hide its quack. And on that note, let us turn to the scriptures. All right, let's see which one of these are going to work better. Oh. Okay. All right, so our talk today is entitled Self-Evident Truth Within You. And boy, are you in for a real treat today. Yes. This is a threefer. Part 1, biblical study. Part 2, a history lesson. And then part 3, a scientific study of the science of mind. 3. So today, in Christian churches all over the world, as many of you know, they're celebrating an event that occurred over 2,000 years ago. And it is called Palm Sunday. Now, it is that day that Jesus, riding on a donkey, as a symbol of being humble, of humility, Jesus is riding on this donkey amongst thousands and thousands of pilgrims who are making their way to the holy city of Jerusalem. And their pilgrimage is all about celebrating one of the great annual Jewish feasts, the Passover. Now, something that we should know as we go into this story, the Jewish people are under the rule and under the bondage of the Roman Empire. And yet they still harbor a certain optimism, because in the Jewish faith, in the Jewish tradition, they have a belief that a great Messiah is going to come. And this Messiah will be a descendant of David. And this Messiah will emerge into the scene. And the first thing the great Messiah will do will be to crush and destroy all of the enemies of the Jewish people. And then the Messiah will return the Jews to their homeland and elevate the Jewish nation, the Jewish people, to a place of great power and prosperity. So, as they're coming into Jerusalem, there's Jesus on a donkey. And by this time, most people have either seen or heard of him. His reputation is now preceding him. And what people are witnessing is that he speaks with great wisdom, with great authority. And he's performed amazing miracles, turning water into wine, which is one of our favorites here. He has healed all manners of sickness. He has brought sight to the blind. At one point, there's an account that he fed thousands of people with a few loaves of bread and a couple of fish. And if that weren't enough, it's been told that he rose people from the dead. The ultimate miracle. And as the crowd is witnessing this, they're saying, wait, yes, he is a descendant of David. And look at the wonders and the miracles and the power. And they conclude that this Jesus is the great Messiah. So, they begin to celebrate the Messiah. They begin to celebrate this Jesus, and they start honoring him and praising him, and they go about cutting palm leaves off the trees, many of them waving them and praising him, many of them putting the palms and blankets on the road to soften his ride. And it seems that this annual pilgrimage has turned into a great parade. The Messiah has come. Well, the religious leaders at the time are starting to take notice of this. And they become increasingly more uneasy, increasingly more concerned, because the crowds aren't just listening to him now. they're not just honoring him, they are beginning to follow him. Now, we probably need to stop this because this Jesus is likely to tear the very fabric of the entire religion that society is based on. The political leaders, of course, now are watching these crowds, and they become increasingly more uneasy and more concerned because the crowd's not just listening to them, to him. They're starting to gather around him. They're starting to hang on every one of his words, and they're becoming excitable, unmanageable. And so this Jesus, must be stopped. He's likely to cause an upheaval, and the people will turn against the government and they will revolt. So we really need to stop this Jesus before he dismantles the very infrastructure of the Roman Empire, which will end up in absolute chaos. Well, not long after all of the praising and honoring of Jesus, the crowds very quickly begin to have their doubts. Because Jesus immediately upon entering into Jerusalem as a good Jewish boy, he went to the great temple. He went to the great temple. And he begins, as Russell will show you, he begins to disrupt those conducting business in the temple. Now, what kind of business could someone conduct in a temple? Well, all of these tourists, all of these pilgrims are coming into Jerusalem, and they need animals to sacrifice at the feast of the Passover. So we conveniently have merchants in the temple with animals to sell. And then, of course, you're coming from another country. We need to exchange your currency for the local currency. And, of course, we're going to charge you a fee for that. So next slide, Russell. So he begins to watch the bartering and the overcharging and the stealing. And he begins to recognize that the voices of commerce are drowning out the voices of prayer. And so, in a fury, he yells out, he says, "The scriptures declare my temple will be called a place of prayer for all nations, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." And in a fury, he begins to overturn the tables. And he proceeds to literally throw this den of thieves out of the temple. Now the fire of the crowd's doubts now are fueled. And they say this: no loyal and respectable Jew, and certainly not the promised Messiah, would ever go into the great temple and cause such a disturbance. The great Messiah would never show such disrespect in the house of God. And then Jesus begins to speak about his death as being a necessary means by which the new kingdom of God will come. Now, if that's not disturbing enough to the people, he never mentions how he's going to overcome the Roman Empire. He never mentions how he's going to establish a new kingdom for the Jewish people. And very quickly, the crowd's doubt turns into distrust. And they say, no respectful, mighty Jewish leader so willingly volunteers to die. They fight, they battle, and they destroy their enemy. How could this be the Messiah? This makes no sense. And how true when one's hopes are dashed, how quickly we become disillusioned. And very quickly, the crowd's distrust turns into anger. So now we have Jesus in the middle of the perfect storm. Middle of a perfect storm. He has a religious system mounting against him. This religious system is closed at the top, desperate to maintain their control and their position. On the other side, you have a government now mounting against him, corrupt, desperate to maintain their position and their control. And then finally, you have an angry mob. Desperate for political and social and economic change. So all of this energy now starts to come together. And as we know, the entire universe is energy, so this energy has to go somewhere. And so all of these emotions, and all of this anger, and all of this desperation comes together in a sickening set of circumstances, in a pathetic set of circumstances. And pressured by the mob, and pressured by the religious system, the Roman leaders falsely accuse Jesus of these nebulous crimes, and they order his execution. Literally 5 days after riding so triumphantly into Jerusalem, Jesus is executed. And he's executed by the means of the cross. Russell? Now, if you ever do, not that this would be something you run home to do, but if you ever do research on why the Romans chose crucifixion as a means of execution, I read an article that a doctor wrote, and it literally is the most excruciating, most painful way a human being can die. Human beings are very good at destruction. So eventually, as the story goes, Jesus expires. They take the body off the cross. They prepare the body for burial. And Jesus is placed into a tomb, and a large stone is rolled over the opening of the tomb. Done. It's finished. The religious leaders are satisfied. Better that one man should suffer. Better that one man die than an entire generation suffer. The political leaders are satisfied. Better that one man die than many people lose their lives in a revolt. The people satisfied. This could not possibly have been the great Messiah. If it was a great Messiah, he would have saved himself. Better that one man die before an entire generation is misled by a madman. So, in their minds, this story has ended. Yet, it ain't over yet. In fact, it was just beginning. Because what Scripture tells us is that 3 days later, the tomb is found to be empty. This Jesus has risen from the dead. And that day that this discovery was made would be called Easter, which we'll be celebrating next Sunday. And we're told over the course of many days, there were many, many, many people that witnessed that Jesus was alive. So what looked like death was really the beginning of life. what looked like the end of Jesus' ministry was really the beginning of the idea of Christianity. That concludes your Bible study. Now let's get into a quick bit of history. So 2,000 years later, what is left of the Roman Empire? What of our Jewish friends today? And finally, what has come of Jesus' ministry? You know, the Roman Empire, at the time of its heyday, literally, truly ruled the earth. They were a powerful, powerful force. And historians tell us that it wasn't until 432 BC that the Roman Empire, the last part of the Roman Empire, finally collapsed. And for the most part, the government had been wiped out, had vanished. I find this interesting, and I did not know this until researching for this talk, but Christianity played a very important role in the demise of the Roman Empire. And let me tell you why. I'm going to read from this history book. One of the many factors that contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire was the rise of a new religion, Christianity. The Christian religion was monotheistic, meaning one God. And that ran counter to the traditional Roman religion, which was polytheistic, meaning many gods. At different times, the Romans persecuted the Christians because of their beliefs, which were very popular with the poor, the uneducated. In 313 BC, the Roman Empire Constantine the Great ended all persecution and declared toleration for Christianity. And then later that century, Christianity, this is interesting to me, Christianity became the official state religion of the empire. This drastic change in policy spread this relatively new religion to every corner of the empire. By approving Christianity, the Roman state directly undermined its religious traditions. Finally, by this time, Romans considered their emperor a god. But the Christian belief in one God, who was not the emperor, weakened the authority and the credibility of the emperor. This is the very essence of how this empire began to crumble. So what remains of the Roman Empire? Russell, if you travel throughout Europe, you'll see there are relics, there are pieces of artwork, but really what remains are some deteriorating buildings, many of which are only not in full decay only because we've employed modern technology to keep them from decaying. And of course, Russell, the next one, the great Colosseum. And you can see here where work is being done to preserve part of the Colosseum. That's about what's left of the Roman Empire. And this next part is not a commentary on the Jewish people or the Jewish faith. This is just simply an update on the status of our Jewish friends. And that is, there's about 14 million Jewish people in the world today. That count's a little skewed because there's many countries in the world where Jews don't necessarily claim their background because they're persecuted in many places. But many of our Jewish friends have stayed true to their spiritual beliefs, their spiritual practices. And those that do practice fervently continue to wait for the coming of the great Messiah. There's a little picture there, Russell. I love this. Our Jewish friends, the young people holding to their traditions, that world sort of colliding with new technology, and fascinating. Okay, so what remains now of Jesus' ministry? You know, this ministry that everyone thought was squelched and snuffed out, where are we today? Well, there are 21.8 billion Christians in the world today. 41,000 different denominations. And Christianity can literally be found in every corner of the world. We mustn't forget that Ernest Holmes was greatly influenced by this entity, Jesus. And a great portion of the Science of Mind textbook is dedicated to the teachings of Jesus. Knowing all of this, that concludes your history lesson. So let's go into the scientific studies of the science of mind now. You know, when you look at all of this history of thousands of years, one could glean many insights, many spiritual lessons. And as I prayed about that, I really got serious about reading about Jesus' life. And it became very evident to me that he understood what we call principle. I like to say that when I really look at Jesus, he was really the first, he was the consummate religious scientist. And he understood principle, and he lived in principle. When you watch him navigate through life, he always stayed true to his truth. In every situation, he was mindful of the truth and acted from the truth. The other thing that I recognized, you know, other than interacting with oneself and interacting with the God of our being, the only other thing that we do in life is interact with other human beings. And I read and I watched how Jesus interacted with others. And he always came from a place of love. And I have to tell you, love isn't always sicky sweet. I mean, there were times when Jesus acted out of love, and he was pretty firm, pretty stern. He always acted from a place of faith, and he was always teaching principle. Always. Every time he encountered someone, he was teaching. And when he wasn't teaching, he healed, he blessed, he encouraged, he lifted up, and he comforted. And even in the worst conditions, he always filled the space that he was in with love and empathy and wisdom. And I have no idea where those three words came from. I read it after writing it, and I said, this is something that I need to understand. And when I looked at the fact that Jesus, in every instance, was love, empathy, which I believe means being interested in. He loved and he was interested in the people he was interacting with. And he was always in a place where he was coming from wisdom. And when I looked at that, I thought, that is the reason why he achieved such tremendous impact. If you want to look at numbers, if you want to look at impact, I mean, Jesus achieved tremendous success. I mean, his results speak for themselves, right? 21 billion people. Kim Kardashian just celebrated 1.4 million followers on Twitter. That gives you a comparison. And so, as I looked at that, I started to look at my own life. And I thought, you know what? I have areas in my life where I am not seeing impact. I am not seeing success. I'm not seeing results. And I realized that the reason that's happening in those areas of my life, it's because I have failed to fill the spaces that I am in with love and empathy, interest, and I've moved away from what I know to be wisdom. And so I began to pray. I said, you know what? What can I do? I mean, how can I change this? Where can I begin? And this prayer came to me in the most wondrous way. And I have to tell you, it is a joy. We talk about this as ministers all the time. When you're scheduled to do a talk and you begin working on it, you can't accelerate the process. The universe delivers it to you when you need it and when the time is right. You know, I'm very, I get kind of crazy about all this. So like I sit and I'm like, I need wisdom. Where are the words? This is coming. You're driving me crazy. Share, download. And God is always, it comes. You have to learn to relax down. You have to learn to relax. And that's true for all of us. Breathe into the timing of your life. Breathe into God's timing. What you need will come to you when you need it. So, this prayer, and Russell, can you bring that up? This prayer came to me, and you should all have one in your program. If you don't, make sure that you grab one on your way out. Now, can you read it? Okay. Let's read this together as a group. Ready? Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel that there is something special in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance and give every living creature you meet a smile. I love this. Okay. Really, really, really say this one. Ready? To give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. To be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. To think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but great deeds. To live in faith that the whole world is on your side, so long as you are true to the best that is in you. Wow. Wow. And this is written by Christian Larson. Does anyone know who Christian Larson is? I'll give you 25. Okay. Let me say, shoot you. I already owe you tons of whatever. Christian Larson was a very prolific New Thought author 100 years ago. And when Ernest Holmes decided to publish The Science of Mind magazine, Dr. Holmes made one call to Christian Larson and said, I'd like you to be the editor of my magazine. And just like Cheryl says, Mr. Larson said yes. So, if we made this a part of our lives every day, if we lived from this place every day, don't you think, just like Jesus did, that we would fill the spaces of our lives with the greatest energy possible? I think so. Now here's the thing. What Jesus knew, other than the obvious, Jesus knew, because he said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And Dr. Holmes knew, because Dr. Holmes said there is a self-evident truth within you. And what they were both saying is, living in this way and creating this energy in this way, you must remember that you are part of the universe. You are the universe expressing itself. And what comes along with that is the fact that you are surrounded by a law that's going to take your words and your thoughts and your feelings and the energy that you bring to the spaces in your life. And if we do it right, then that law is going to take that and create for you success, the ability to impact. The law is going to create for you great results. So, I think we should give it a try this week.
Okay.
Make sure you take one of those home, read it every day, and let's just see what happens.
Yes.
And I thank you, Jesus, for being such a tremendous example in my life. Namaste. I love you all very much.
You were talking about the qualities and traits of Jesus. All I could think of while I was sitting there was how much you and Reverend Stacy and Reverend Cheryl are just like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that is
You teach it, you live it, and
I can't hear you.
you teach it, you live it, and you are it. How about this beauty again? What do you think of this beauty over here? Wipe my tears away. I know, right? I know. Reverend Dan is special. They all are.
Well, the one thing I would really like to say is that there is truly nowhere in the world I would rather be than right here, right now.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
I'm buying those CDs. They're incredible.
Go, you guys, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, those CDs. Yeah, she's got CDs.
All right. Well, I'd like to ask ushers to please come forward.
You know, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. It was just beautiful. And I want to thank Patty for being so open to allowing talent to come here. It's wonderful.
I mean, come on.
And I also want to give thanks to Dave, who somehow figures out how to bring it all together, right? It's really amazing. So let us take our gift or our tithe and hold it to our hearts and repeat with us. From the love of pure spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and bless and prosper. It is evidence of my faith and belief. It does good work in the world and returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so we just give thanks for each and every gift and tithe given. And what I celebrate now is that each and every person here brings into their space the energy of love and empathy and wisdom and the idea of sharing and giving. And I celebrate that now that law of circulation is in place. And so what I know is that each person here now does in fact move into a greater experience, greater level of financial freedom and abundance. It is a wondrous law, and I give thanks for it.
Yeah.
So together we say,
And so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Anyway, I would like to ask our ministers to please come forward. Any visiting ministers or visiting practitioners to please come forward. Awesome, awesome, huh? All right, you know, these folks are here for you, just as we are. And they'd be happy to pray with you, to talk to you, or simply give you a hug, really. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We also have boxes where you can put a prayer request in the grand hall and up here where it says God's Pocket. If you don't want to ask them for prayer, even if you want to hug them or ask, talk to them, blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, thank you all for being here. And do you want them to stand and connect? Woohoo! Oh, yeah.
And so, if it's comfortable for you to do so, please close your eyes. And let's just take a deep collective breath. And I allow that to remind me that again, the only thing that's happening here is God. That each person here is holding the hand of God. is breathing the air of God and is expressing that one life of God. And so I give thanks today. I give thanks for life. I give thanks for this teaching that teaches me how to live this life. I give thanks for each person here. And I know in advance that this week, each person moves into every space of their life with the energies of love and empathy and wisdom. And as a result, each person experiences the very best that the universe has to offer. I give thanks for it all, and I especially give thanks knowing that each person here navigates through their week and is guided, guarded, and protected. It is all good. It is all God, and I give thanks for it all. And so now I release my word into that perfect and exacting law. I know that as I have spoken, it is already done. So I sit back, I relax, and I allow God to do God's work. Thank you, God, and together we say,
and so it is. Yes, there is peace on earth, and now it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our power, loved ones are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and now it begins with me.
Repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
I know this in my mind.
I know this in my mind.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
And so it is.
And so it is.